Hello, welcome to my channel, or welcome back. The message for today is laugh and the world laughs with you. Sometimes we face situations in life that are so emotionally distressing, and sometimes the situation is so absurd it feels like a joke is being placed on us, right? Like your workplace is exploiting you in such a Kafkaesque way that it feels like something out of a novel. Or maybe the person you've placed your trust in the most betrays you, or the person you've placed the most love in is cruel to you. It's almost absurd sometimes, these situations, where it's like, what am I supposed to learn from this? And this is actually the purpose of the trickster energy. It's to show you something that you couldn't have been shown any other way, by essentially playing a joke on you and subverting your expectations. And the trickster energy is also very closely associated with the savior energy, which is this concept of looking outside of yourself for some sort of salvation, and being led and being misled. So let's draw some cards on this topic. And really my guidance on this is that you do have to laugh along with the world. Laugh along with that trickster when you see it in your life, because there's no point crying yourself to sleep, having your day ruined because of these situations, right? Like, obviously you have to feel your emotions, and sometimes you do have to cry or scream, or write in your journal about like where in your body you're feeling these emotions. But at the same time, these situations that we're placed in, that our ego is placed in, are meant to teach us lessons. And the trickster energy is helping us learn these lessons. All right, so our first card, we have notebook. So this is what I'm saying is, like, you need to reflect on these situations that you're being placed in, not just reacting to them emotionally, but really contemplating, like, what could I possibly learn from the situation, right? You're transforming your suffering into something that can be beneficial to you, to expanding yourself as a person, like integrating different qualities of yourself you didn't know, right? So if a situation makes you feel very angry, it's like, instead of just, giving into the anger and letting it possess you, it's about recognizing this anger in yourself, being like, why did I feel so triggered by this? Like, was there something in my past that this feels like I'm repeating a past scenario? Am I repeating some sort of cycle? Does this strike at some core aspect of me where I feel so insulted because, maybe I see myself as an intelligent person and the situation I've been placed in makes me feel stupid? And it's like understanding your reactions, and learning to laugh at yourself of like, wow, it's kind of absurd how insulted I got by that situation. All right, then we have dog. So it's this feeling of, you're the universe's dog, right? It's almost like you don't have as much agency as you would like to have. It's like, you're kind of running around blind, and there's this level above yourself that is outside of your understanding, right? So the dog doesn't really understand what's going on, right? A lot of people like point at their dog and be like, oh, he's so ugly, he's so stinky. But because they're saying it in kind of a cutesy way, the dog doesn't understand what's going on, right? You can be insulting it and it's just, going around because it's kind of stupid, right? You need to understand that on the human level, or like at least on the ego level especially, there's things we don't understand. There's things going on outside our realm of perception of like what we can understand. Right? So when you look at these overarching things in your life of like these cycles that are playing out, right? When you're stuck in the ego, you don't understand why this is happening. But if you can go to that higher level just for a moment and look at it from this outside view, you get this understanding of this higher level of consciousness. Like the human looking down on the dog, you can look down at your ego in the situations that he or she is being placed in, or they, and understand like, what exactly is the situation telling me? And not just me as this person who's experiencing it, but like me as the observer of my experiences. All right, projector. So this is really relating to, projecting some emotional state that you have onto a situation, or something internal to you that is this issue that you need to work through, and you're projecting it onto the outside world, and you're ending up in these situations because you're projecting your emotions out into the world, right? So if you have some core insecurity, it's very likely that when you're in a interaction with other people, it's going to really make you feel like you're at the bottom of the social hierarchy. Like, it feels like you're constantly being insulted by the people around you. And it's not because they're like necessarily trying to insult you all the time, but it's because you've placed yourself mentally in this feeling of feeling less than other people, of feeling insecure, of like, if you're insecure about your appearance or your intelligence, people will pick up on this and you'll become really defensive, and it'll land you in these situations where it feels like, you feel powerless, but it's really a projection of things that you do have control over. You do have control over your insecurities, the thoughts that you're entertaining, and so on. All right. Okay, we have the Six of Cups, right? So this is like this card of this very kind of like childlike sort of innocence. And it's this feeling of kind of being given a gift, right? And this really innocent gift. So it almost feels like when you're placed in these situations where the trickster energy might be present, it almost feels like you're being cursed, or like you're being inflicted some sort of wound, like you're being stabbed, when really you need to look at it as a gift. Like, it is such a blessing that my awareness is being pointed towards something that I wasn't aware of previously. That is within myself, right? Like, instead of thinking about, it's so awful, this situation that I've been placed in, you have to think of it as like, it's incredible that this situation has brought out something in me that I wasn't aware of before. And instead of going on completely unaware and letting the situation play out over and over and having the same emotional responses, the blessing is in the fact that you're able to recognize what is happening to you and being able to break that cycle. So I really feel like a lot of this energy is about recognizing your own control. Like I mentioned with this concept of the savior, is not looking outside yourself, not getting too caught up in the melodrama of the world, but understanding that what's going on in your internal world is really key. All right, so we have the Tower card here. So this relates to some sort of event that is like life shattering, like it feels like everything is falling apart. And this is definitely something where the trickster energy is quite present in these sort of really traumatic or just new experiences to you, where it feels like your life is just completely falling apart, like everything you knew before is falling away. And this is really an embodiment of this trickster energy, because it's this false sense of security we have in ourselves and in our ego of, I understand how the world works. I understand all these systems playing out around me. And, you know, the way that I think something is, that's the way it is. And what these tower moments in our life show us is that actually everything that we held before, all our convictions, you know, these were a product of our former self who had some, like, limited knowledge, who was maybe more at the whim of these emotional reactions. And by showing you that what you held so sacred, what you really believed to be true, is not actually true, it does feel like the world is falling apart. But this is what allows us to rebuild from scratch, right? Rebuild with a healthy orientation towards the world. Instead of, you know, these mistaken things that we were caught up in before, it shows us our mistakes when things fall apart. And it's really about bouncing back and being able to rebuild after that once the dust settles. All right, we've got the Devil. Okay, so again, sometimes it will feel like there's this kind of demonic presence, almost like, why are these things happening to me? Like, why is a bad thing happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? Like, the presence of the devil is clearly here. But part of this is that it's not actually like anything is being inflicted on you. It's actually the fact that this devil energy is present in the world. And you need to understand that, like, if you are focused on this energy, that is what you're going to experience. And I'm not trying to victim blame here. Like, of course, there are things that are inflicted on us that are just, you know, obviously violating and not right. And we should be able to understand, okay, like, yes, I condemn this behavior. But not to victimize yourself as if there is some satanic force who is casting these curses against you. But understand that these things are present in the world for us to experience. And if we're experiencing these things, it's because we need to learn some lesson. And, you know, again, like really trying to transform that suffering into growth. And, you know, it is really awful that these things happen to us, yes, but our suffering can serve a higher cause, which is our self-development. And, you know, being able to find meaning in the suffering is incredibly empowering. Instead of giving into it or like maybe indulging it to the point where like, okay, bad things have happened to me. Now I'm going to indulge these evil impulses. I'm going to become the devil. I'm going to hurt other people the way that people have hurt me. But really understanding instead, like I can rise above it. And if I see something in the world that is this demonic energy that I condemn, it's to not indulge it. It's to say, I don't stand with this. I don't approve of this. And, you know, I will not treat people the same way that I've been treated because I know what is right and what is wrong for me. All right, and then we have the Five of Swords, right? So this is, again, about, like, when people have given up Some people will lay down their swords, and it's about you learning to pick up the things and make the best of it, right? Like, one person's trash is another person's treasure, right? What one person sees as some terrible, awful thing that's been inflicted upon them that's going to make them cry themselves to sleep and scream and that sort of thing, you can see this, and you can see, like, you know what, actually, this is a boon. This is a blessing that I've been given, and I'm so very thankful for that. Don't lay down your swords. Don't stop fighting. Don't just give in and say, I'm powerless. I can't fight anymore. No, you have to understand, like, when you go through these trials and tribulations and when other people might give up, this is actually your chance to become stronger, right? Because it's like Nietzsche says, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. And these battles that you feel like you've lost, like, you lose a battle, but you win the war. And especially when you're this person who's able to pick up the pieces in this way and not just, give up entirely. All right, so we've pulled Godarla, the mystery dust kaiju. Is like a bee? It's like Mothra. I think it's supposed to be a moth. Yeah, like Mothra. All right, so it's again, like this dust, this mysterious dust that falls to the ground after the tower falls, right? It seems to cloud things, and things become not very clear. And this is, again, with this trickster energy, is like, you can't understand it. It's like, when you're the butt of a joke, you don't understand like that you're leading yourself into the situation, right? Because it's so murky, you don't understand exactly what the trick that's being played on you. And sometimes you have to accept that there is this dust, this fog around you about the things that you're going about in your life, right? You don't understand what the outcome is going to be when you go into a situation, and you'll never have that clarity. It's about embracing the fact that I am going to be fooled. I am going to, not have the full vision of this situation, but it's about coming back after that once the dust has settled, like I said, and trying to figure out, okay, like, now I can pick up the pieces. Now I can figure out, like, what exactly was happening there. Where in the moment you feel very lost and confused, yes. And it's not about trying to escape this feeling of loss or confusion, like I mentioned, of trying to build up on these things that we think we know and having this false sense of security in our convictions, but understanding that in the moment it's not clear. You don't understand what the consequences of your actions are going to be in the moment, or you don't understand exactly how a situation is going to play out, and there's so many factors involved, right? You can only see a very small fragment of the whole situation, and it's embracing this, learning to thrive in the confusion. All right, let's pull a few more cards. All right, we have terraforming. So again, this is about creating your reality, right? You have this power when things are shattered to rebuild, and rebuild from scratch with all the knowledge that you've acquired, with understanding of new things about the world and about yourself, and these new qualities that you've integrated into yourself by observing your emotional reactions. Is that now you get to decide how you react to things, how your emotional world is structured. And so really this is a card of empowerment. It's this feeling that you're building from a completely new ground, right? This feeling of a new leaf, of starting from scratch. And this is what these moments in our life show us, is that, like, everything I held to believe that I thought was true is actually not true. And instead of, like, wallowing in it and being like, I'm so stupid, I can't believe I got fooled like that, it's about being like, no, it's incredible that now I've come out of this situation with a little bit more wisdom, a little bit more life experience, and I will not repeat the same cycles. I will not do the same thing over and over, because now I know how something is played out. So now I'm going to seize the reins and not just let it play out again, and I'm going to create a favorable outcome for myself in the situation. All right, then we got slower swallow. So it's this bird carrying a little bag. I love how the card is shiny. And this feeling of flowers and slowness, like you're planting a seed and letting it grow. And it's almost like this mysterious seed that you don't really know what it's going to be when it blossoms. And it's this feeling of really taking things slowly, of not trying to see the outcome before it happens, right? You can't pick the flower before you've even planted the seed. You have to go through these periods of confusion, of not knowing what's going to happen, of not having the flower. You just have this barren ground, right? You have to start from that situation, from scratch. And being able to embrace this, right? Not feeling completely scared, out of control, and feeling like you have nothing, like things have been taken from you. No, it's actually, you're given this opportunity to plant a seed, your own seed, and watch it grow and take things slowly. And again, like with this, the swallow, right? The bird flying above things. And of course with Ghidorah, our mystery kaiju, again, like a moth flying above things, right? You have this higher perspective on things. You understand that things will play out over the course of a lifetime, over the course of many years. These things that, maybe you set in motion years ago that you didn't think were significant in any way. Like, it has this butterfly effect of, you never could have considered that this action that you took, that the situation that you were in, could have resulted in what's going to happen in the future, right? And also understanding that all the things that you're doing now are going to, have ramifications in some way. And, you could see this as this kind of paralyzing moment of, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I can't make a choice because it's going to have so many different outcomes. It's going to be so scary. But instead, you can look at it as like, I'm just going to try and make the best of every situation that I encounter, right? In every moment, I am laughing with this trickster energy, and I'm going with the flow, and I'm understanding that, you can't be so serious about things all the time, right? Sometimes you just have to play a little. And when you learn to play and you learn to laugh and you learn to, go along with the jokes of the world, really, the jokes that the world is playing on you, that is when you get to be able to have some sort of power in a situation, because you've set yourself up for success, right? You're not so focused on the outcome. You are accepting this foolish nature of like walking into something blindly. But at the same time, making the best of every situation, right? Anything that triggers an emotional reaction in you, any situation that, gets you thinking, instead of having these thoughts that you're like wallowing in, and it's the thought is causing you some sort of pain. It's actually, you're picking up the thoughts and you're examining the thoughts, right? Not just letting them flow through you constantly and like affecting your emotional state. It's seizing them, observing them, putting some analysis into them, and letting your garden grow. Now let's pull a few more cards on this topic. Right? Okay, we have the Page of Pentacles. So again, this is this feeling of like you're planting something new, this sort of the seed that, you don't know what it's going to be. You don't know how big this tree is going to grow. You don't know, how deep the roots will go, how wide the branches will extend. Really, all you can do is come to a situation with a sort of innocence. And, again, not focus on the outcomes. You have to focus on the very beginning, coming to things again, with this foolish energy of just I'm planting the seed now. I don't know what's going to happen. And in every moment, you're never at the end of things. You're never at the end of your journey, right? Every minute is this new, fresh moment to seize. There's always this feeling of newness, of reinvention, of rebuilding. At any moment, you can choose to pivot away from cycles you've been repeating, away from things that you've built, something you've held so precious for a long time. At the end of the day, the seasons are going to change, right? This crop that you've planted and you've fertilized and you've cared for so well, by the time winter comes, it'll die and the ground will be barren again. And by the springtime, it'll be time to plant a new seed. And this is how you have to examine every moment in your life, is like this continual process of plants that are wilting away and new things that will grow out of the soil. And as plants are planted in the soil, some plants will deplete the soil from its nutrients, and others will put more nutrients into the soil. And so you can maybe consider this about are the seeds that I'm planting fertilizing my mind and my inner world, or are they depleting my energies and making it more difficult for new crops to grow? So again, this is this feeling of examining the thoughts that you're choosing to entertain, examining the situations you're placing yourself in. But is this conducive to growth? Is this a fertile ground, or is this something barren where nothing can grow? right, we've got the Four of Cups. So it's this feeling of you're being offered something, right? And specifically, you're being offered something when you sit in quiet contemplation with nature. So it's this feeling of being very still and calm. And this is what allows you to observe the gifts that are being offered to you, right? If you are running around frenetically, having these emotional reactions to everything that happens to you, you won't notice the blessing when it comes out of thin air for you. You'll be staring at what you already have, the things you've already done in the past, and really placing way too much value onto things that have happened in the past, and like what you possess currently, and not looking at like what you can seize from every moment, right? Because if you're just sitting there looking at what you've accumulated, it's a very meager amount, whereas in every moment there's more to seize, more to add to your stock of like things that you understand about yourself, things you understand about the way the world works. And specifically relating to these feelings of emotion, of like understanding yourself very thoroughly, not having this surface level understanding of your emotions of like, this situation made me mad. This is an angering situation. This situation made me sad. This is a saddening situation. But really taking stock in yourself of like, why did this make me sad? Why did this make me angry? And by feeling these emotions and going even deeper into them, right? And like, turning them over so thoroughly, right? Not just looking at one side of it, but like spinning it around and seeing every angle. You have such a deeper way of understanding your own sadness, of understanding your own anger, and understanding the processes that are taking place when these feelings are being produced. And when you have this understanding of the process that spurs these feelings, you can kind of stop it if you want to, right? So if you're in a situation that is making you sad, and you typically give in to sadness, right, it just becomes a cycle and you'll just keep doing that. But when you stop and reflect for a moment, then it becomes like, if a situation is usually a saddening situation to you, you can stop and you can say, wait a second, why would I get sad because of that? It's actually kind of absurdly funny that this would happen. You laugh with the world, and you've now saved yourself from feeling an emotion that maybe was not strategic to feel in that moment. Because sometimes our emotions can really negatively impact a situation, right? If you are someone who's ever burnt a bridge, which we all have, it's usually because of a strong emotional reaction in the moment, where if you had been just a little bit more regulated, if you had understood why the situation triggered you so much, instead of lashing out, that could have been a connection you could have salvaged. Or maybe if you think about it in a professional context, right? Something that would typically make you angry, if you're talking to someone and you're trying to do some sort of business deal, and you really want the deal to work out for you. Like, you're not just trying to do some ego thing of like, I'm taking this person down a notch, I'm gonna yell at them. But you specifically want the outcome to be favorable for you, and they say something that makes you angry, and you lash out in anger, that is going to make you look like you're out of control. It's going to make you look powerless and actually weaker, right? A lot of people think that, having an emotional reaction can, be powerful in some ways. Like, honestly, if you yell at someone, it just makes you look smaller. It makes you look weak. And so in a sense, it can be very advantageous for you to have control over your emotions. And this is the whole process of like learning to laugh, right? Having a good time, being able to just be chill, okay? Like, take things as they come and take a moment before you react sometimes. And like, obviously you should trust your intuition. You should honor your body's reactions to certain situations. But at the same time, if you are thinking about a situation and you want it to go your way, there are certainly strategies you can put in place that will help you shape the situation, right? You have control. You have control over yourself, and you have control over the situations that you're placed in. And it's about giving yourself this power to say, I am in control. I am not at the whim of my emotions, of things that other people say to me, of situations that I'm placed in. No, at all times, I am in control. All right, we have Cave. So it's really about going into these deeper parts of yourself. Like, this is what the trickster shows you. It's like, don't just look at the surface level of the entertainment, of the play that's going on, right? You need to go deeper into this, the emotional drama that's going on inside of you in this deep cave of your inner world. That is so much more real than the things you're seeing in the illusory world, in this world of the surface level actors, and literally we're all just playing our roles, and not identifying with this play, but understanding that where the truth lies is deep inside, very deep in this cave, right? And you haven't even scratched the surface. These tower moments that are going on in your life, these are fully above the surface. This is it feels like the world is ending. But where the world is, it's actually in this cave. These things that happen in the world can't touch reality at all. You can't identify with these things that are going on outside of you. You need to identify with your core sense of self, this is some very deep inside of you that, most people don't even get close to scratching. And I think it's actually impossible to really fully know this inner reality, but to attempt to master as much as you can and place yourself closer to it rather than further out in the world and away from your sense of power. All right, so we have Fairy Tale Luna. Oh, she's so cute. She's like a little fox. She's so pretty. And I feel like she's really kind of wise. Like, she's hiding herself behind a little fan, and she's kind of being a little bit playful, a little bit coy. And I think this is kind of how you have to be, right? Being coy and having this kind of very elegant, discerning, put together demeanor is very advantageous for you in the world, right? You're not someone who can just easily be influenced, right? You have this really wise inner strength, and it doesn't necessarily have to be this masculine, like what you might associate with like brutal force, right? To just be still in yourself, to sit pretty, right? That is its own form of strength. And this is like something that's very underrated. It's like, you're not being shaken, right? The jester can dance in front of you all he wants, right? And you're not gonna cry like this weak king who's maybe the insult hit a little too close to home. No, you're in this powerful empress energy of like sitting and observing and saying, this jester dances for me and I'm going to laugh at it, right? I'm not insulted by it. The whole point of the jester is to entertain me, and so I'm going to get my entertainment out of it, not sit here and cry and like or be confused, like, why is he dancing like that? It's like, you just gotta play with it, have fun. Oh my gosh, wow, what card is this? The Joker. Exactly, right? The world is entertainment for us, right? When you identify too much with the world and seeing the world as your core sense of self, like, okay, I got exploited by my employer, therefore I'm a weak, pathetic, sad person. Someone broke my trust, therefore I'm some gullible, foolish person. Someone treated me cruelly, again, like, I'm weak, I'm pathetic. No, that's not what these situations are meant to teach you. This is like a play that's meant to show you things about yourself, about your internal world. And you need to laugh at it like you're watching the show, right? This is really how you have to look at it. All right, let's pull a couple tarot cards and wrap this up. I feel like this is really just a process that you're learning. And, it's like a kid, or maybe someone who's on the autism spectrum, maybe you can identify with this, is you take things too seriously sometimes. Like, you don't understand that it's meant to be a joke. You kind of just, you get too caught up in it. Like, that really shook my core sense of self. Like, why would you say that to me? Why would this happen? Or like a little kid who just doesn't get a joke. It's just like, you're really thinking it through. Like, what did that string of words mean? And then like everyone else is laughing at it. Like, you have to to get behind the joke and just laugh with it. And honestly, even if you don't always get the joke, a joke is meant to be funny, so at least laugh, and then maybe you can unpack later why it's funny. Like, maybe a kid hearing a dirty joke, right? I think everyone has probably experienced this as you're a kid. Like, you kind of laugh, like, it's meant to be funny, but you have no idea what that actually means. And then as an adult, you learn all these things about the world and about human sexuality, and then you're like, oh, that actually was funny, but I just didn't know why it was funny before because I didn't have the knowledge. All right, so we have the Page of Wands. So again, this is like this feeling of like, you can control things. Like, you have this kind of magic wand. The Ace of Wands. Did I say Page of Wands? I misspoke. It's this, maybe you're just coming into this. You're just at the beginning of this journey now, maybe. Is you didn't understand before that you had so much control over the world. That you had this kind of bird's eye perspective that you can look down on things and not get caught up in the worm's eye view too much of like, oh my gosh, people are gonna step on me on the sidewalk. Like, no, you're high above this and you can see the whole road and everything's spreading out in front of you, and you have the power to control it. Don't feel like you're at the whims of the world, right? No, you have power, and it's a matter of finding this power deep inside yourself, right? This magical quality of feeling like, I'm like a wizard. I cast my spell, right? You're not gonna find that by going to some bookstore and reading a book on spells. I mean, that could help you a little bit, give you a little guidance, and it could be entertaining. But if you actually want to find this core source of power that actually makes you feel in control, you have to go into yourself. You have to observe yourself and integrate things into yourself, right? It's like you're acquiring all these skills from the world, right? Like, when you're playing an RPG and you level up and you get a new skill, that's how it is. It's like you're unlocking new capabilities as you go through the world and integrate things through observation, through analysis, and through integration. All right, then we have the Hierophant. So again, this is kind of similar to what I'm saying, is like you're kind of at this like beginning stage of your journey, like you're really learning about the power that you can harness, and you're maybe kind of getting like an inventory on what is out there in the world, like what is a human being capable of, right? And what is a human being capable of when they transcend the ego? And maybe previously you were locked down to like a much smaller version of who you thought you could be. But as you learn more about yourself and about the world, you're really expanding this domain of knowledge in order to become more powerful. All right, let's pull one last card from this deck that I've illustrated, and we'll close out the reading. All right, Fish. Okay, so this is really summing up the trickster energy, right? It's bait, right? If you're ever on internet forums, you might understand what I mean by this, is you got baited, right? You got rage baited. There was this thing in the world, and instead of like looking at, oh, that is a worm on a hook, and if I bite it, the hook is gonna go through my face, and that wouldn't be too fun. No, like, you're not gonna just chomp down on it. Don't get baited, okay? Take a moment to breathe and say like, okay, that is something that is trying to trigger me. This is something meant to get this reaction out of me. So now I'm going to stop, sit back, and think about it. Think about who's coming up from this mysterious place above the water and placing this lure down in front of me, right? And, if you want a more concrete example of like baiting, I mean, like I mentioned with rage baiting, if like someone is saying something to make you mad, and this happens in the world, and there are people in the world who embody a trickster energy. And if you don't know how to spot these people, maybe sometimes they'll say things like, I have a savior complex. And they're the type of person who will bait you, right? Because they're trying to remove your power. They're trying to make you feel like they're more powerful than you, which is not true, right? There's someone trying to remove your power by playing a joke on you. And so they will bait you into having an emotional reaction because it makes you look weaker. So really, like if I had to sum up this whole trickster energy, it's like, don't take the bait. Don't just dive into it and injure yourself, right? Take a moment to step back, observe, contemplate, and use it to empower you. And maybe if you're a sneaky little fish, you don't have to chomp down right on the hook. You could maybe even, shimmy that little worm off the lure and escape with it. Fish do that all the time. Well, I hope this reading helped you or was somewhat enjoyable to watch. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment below, and I hope to see you in the next video.